Okay, starting here. For those who don't know me, my name is Roger. He's an ex-CPS. The Gracie's coordinator. And over the years, we've been a crisis in my opinion. Let's start out, just go around and introduce yourself.
I'm Randy Smith, 89QOB. Yeah.
So, here's somebody else. Hello. Here's Sandy. Hey. Yeah, if anybody knows, you're down here. Chair, the four coming?
At least two.
Yeah. There's a couple chairs over here. The ones in the Sunday school room, get the back, the right configurations. I'll let you two guys introduce yourselves. Dan Steiner. Okay, so Eric, so we had a little bit of a crisis over the last several years. Currently do not have the areas. Also, we have gone with AJ, Elkhart Co. Amateur Communications. Used to have, last count I had was about 28 areas members. And we're at a high of about 19 racing members. And one became 11. Things changed. Service arena. Making requirements for some training. Races membership. Active races members trying to deploy. After that, keep it that way. It's currently and basically, with the changes that areas program. Elkhart County has no areas. And the reason we don't have any areas members, we don't have enough areas. In order to be an areas member, you have to register on Areas Connect. And you can't register on Areas Connect until the county EC establishes it for the county and each what it is.
That only include, see, city training requirements, as the state is.
As actually, they have the same requirements as the section. It's that. So, it's catch 22. So, all that. I was the last Aries EC. I actually had designed before. I'm basically not willing to go back. Pick up requirements. I felt pretty strong. So, that brought us to, obviously we don't have members, boy, we don't have leaders, we. So we need to do something, and one of the ideas that came about was, what if we had emergency communications, so focusing on emergency communications, things involved in that. We are. It's not just Elkhart. For Aries, I still kept pretty much in touch with Aries. And in Elkhart, in Indiana, out of the 92 counties, last thing,
I looked at it a year ago, they had ECs in 300 counties.
they don't have that.
And District 2, I'm proud of.
Osceola County has St. Joe. They're in the process of doing something, but I don't know how efficient.
Anyway, statewide, it's like 50%.
It's less than 50%
Yeah.
of counties in Indiana have ECs, and that's not just an Indiana problem either. it goes beyond that. So we're not alone, and
They raise the bar and everybody.
they raise the bar, and people really want to pursue it.
Now, the bar is useful though. It's a good goal, one. You know.
Yeah. Okay.
So, sorry.
How many of you were at my other two meetings last year? Okay, I don't know how much to repeat here. I really agree with in general what ARL is doing. They needed to do something nationally to have a program that would work for large scale disasters, hurricanes, whatever, and be able to bring amateurs from all over the country into those things? How do you vet them and make sure that they're ready to do it? So ARL, as a national organization, needed to do something. Where I disagree with them was, to me, the requirements for EC are just outrageous, and it's going to be hard for people to do it. Typically, in general, this is a general statement, but it's pretty close. The counties in Indiana that have ECs, most of those ECs are emergency management employees. So, in order to get the training that's required, you pretty much have to be a full-time emergency management person to get it.
Yeah, it does take a bunch of time.
It takes a lot of
You're
time.
being paid to get trained. That makes it more appealing.
And it becomes part of your job, so it's easier to do. So at any rate, that said, that's where we're at. So I want to go through some of the structure for having a SIG group, and then do some selection of some initial leadership. The idea of the SIG was, these are more from my notes here, but come on. So. Oh, well. It's not going to hit itself and won't, is it? Maybe we start this and we'll behave itself. There it goes. This is what it's supposed to do. Structure. Okay. Let's see it. So what would we do in a SIG meeting? What kind of things do we want to do? One of the big ones is training. Requirements for races. To be at an emergency location through emergency management, which is kind of where it goes, is the independent study 100, 200, and 700. Those are all online classes. They're, you can get, and that's all currently the county requires of us. It's just those three.
Are those the NIBs?
Yeah, those are the NIMS training. 700 is the introduction to NIMS. I can't remember the 200, 300, or 200, 100. One is specifically to the incident command system, and the other one, I don't remember. It's been a while since I did it. But they're all involved with the structure and what happens during an emergency, and who's in charge, and how things are maintained. A structure to it.
Now, how much does county work with city anymore? Elkhart City Emergency Management.
They work together. Elkhart City has their own emergency management.
I was a member of it for 4 years.
Yeah. Last I knew, they were working pretty well with each other.
In the beginning, it was.
In the beginning, it was pretty rough, but that has somewhat changed. So some of the training that we want to work on safety, and to me, this is a huge thing. If we are going to be involved in emergency situations, we need to not be a hindrance, or we need to be an asset and not a liability. And and safety is huge, and we need to make sure that when we go out, we're doing it safely. So safety trainings, I see is something that we can use. The FEMA courses, are those 100, 200, and 700 for ARES to be a level 2 ARES. You also need 800, and the ARL's emergency 001, whatever. They're number 1 emergency communications class. And then to be EC or above, you start adding in a whole bunch of management, FEMA courses, and then their new 16 class, which is, I haven't seen it, so I can't comment too much on it. The ARL 1 and 16 classes, we could do training on those. Basic operations and procedures that we want to use here in Elkhart County. We need to do more development of those, and then make sure everybody knows what they are and how we operate when we get called out. And then other sources, there's all kinds of training out there that's available. So training is one of the things we could do. Technical topics. Again, I see this being very focused for emergency communications. So this isn't a club meeting where you want to have other wide area topics. The topics are gonna have to. I want to see being very, like when we talk about digital modes here, it's going to be digital modes and how they would be applied in an emergency communications, not just chatting on the air.
No FTA.
What?
No FTA.
So some of those, digital comms, APRS, and again, discussions on how to use that in emergency situations, and then packet. Emergency comms would be things. A while back ago, we did some experimenting with emergency communications using some other techniques. Actually, I thought it went pretty well. I was pretty impressed with how well it did. A lot of high-speed stuff. You're able to pass messages, forms and things, which I thought went better than what Packet was able to do.
You're talking about our VigiNet we had.
Yep.
The 9 o'clock or 9:15 net.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah. So we could discuss, things like that. Digital voice. There's several different digital voice techniques out there. Again, any of those work well with emergency communications? How they would work? Do we want to do it? Things like that. Antennas. Various antenna designs. Again, how they would work with emergency communications. Setup techniques. How do you get them up in the air and keep them up there long enough to be at an incident? Talk about new modes, as they come out, what and how they might assist in emergency communications. EComm news, I'm subscribed to a number of places where there's news over, we could have short news bits, if that's of interest of people.
Put it on the net.
And bring them on the net too. See, this would be a group that would help get us going in public service opportunities, fair parade and those kind of things, but there are other races and activities that you know, a larger group of people may know about that, you know, we might be able to do some more public service stuff. We can do builds, you know, if people are interested in that, we can build antennas, balance and filters and rooms and go kits, if people are interested in that, and whatever else.
You mean a go bag?
What?
A go bag?
Go bags,
Gee, man.
it's kind of gone from, in people's discussion, from go bags to go kits, you know. They've gone from, you know, the grab bag that you take that has a HT and a little bit better antenna and some batteries to a box that has, you know, 6 radios in it and, you know, some of that's done. Well, most of that's not necessary. Other thing I'd say, you know, if there's ever any grant opportunities, you know, be able to get groups out of this to help with grant preps and things like that. And another key one is develop leadership. You know, some of us are not getting younger. And we need to encourage continued development so we keep going. So, basically, does that sound like the kind of group that would be of interest to people? You know, again, we come in with some very specific topics and kind of I see this as being something that is for us. It's not me. You know, these are some ideas I had. There are more ideas that are available out there. So I want this to be just structured to us. It's just one reason why I want a leadership team and not me.
How would we work with other groups, say like Skywarn or emergency management or something like that?
Let's keep going here. So basically, when I first started, got my ham license and started here in Elkhart County with the emergency group, there used to be an advisory committee. It was basically a group that would meet on a monthly basis. I think is what we met, maybe somewhere in there, fairly often, just to discuss things, and that's where the first grant came out of and things like that. So what I see this being is, you know, approximately 6 to 8 members. I don't want it any bigger than 8, and 8's probably too big.
Not all of us.
Yeah, that's and kind of where it would tie into the other groups. The answer to your question is one of those members I would suggest being, you know, the races coordinator, which kind of volunteers myself, don't it? The Aries EC, which we currently don't have one. And of course the Skyward manager. So there's three of the leadership groups there. And another one, the net control manager. Right now, Paul does that. It keeps net controls going for our net.
If anybody's interested in being in that control.
I knew that.
I'm always looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this was kind of how the original advisory team was
You kind of want one person in another group to cross over.
right. And then I would see at least 2 more at-large positions. So what I would see that we need to do currently would be to fill those 6 positions. And I would see that the 2 positions that currently don't have an actual manager, that those would be essentially at-large positions that would be replaced if and when we got somebody to fill those positions. So the others would be more long term. Those 2 would be, you know, get somebody to volunteer for those, they would be in that position until we actually had somebody fill those two positions, and then, so that's what I saw as the structure of that. And again, by doing that, you have the three organizations that Racy's, Aries and Skywarn covered, you know, so there's a lot of interaction there. And then the net control manager, the need for net control operators for all those three organizations are needed to have trained operators. And then at least two more at-large positions just to keep your.
I think those early days, the president of the Goshen Club and the Elkhart Club were also members of that group.
And we can make those at-large positions. Again, these were just things coming out of my head. They're not, none of this is nailed down in stone. We can decide what we want this to be. And I keep stressing that because I think that's important. If we don't have to have these assigned to these four individuals, they can all be at large positions. Just be volunteers. That's fine with me too. So that goes an advisory council, and basically they'd be advising Aries and Racy's and Skywarn, and then any other organizations that we would sometime in the future have arrangements with. Just basically keep emergency communications going. They'd establish regular meetings for the council. This council would have regular meetings, and they would also be the ones doing the planning for this meeting. Again, just trying not to spread out too much leadership, trying to keep it as focused as we could. I get it, and if we grow, needs to change. Nothing in my book is ever put in stone. They would be the place to go for public service events and coordination. Right now, there's really no place for an organization to go to say, yeah, we'd like to have some help. And basically, if one of you said, you know, I know this organization over here that would like to have some help, you know, do you think we could do it? And I would say, yes, you can. Get in touch with them, get a plan going. You know, this would kind of give you a place to go to say, hey, we need, you know, we have a potential opportunity for our public service.
Kind of like the fair.
Kind of like the fair, the triathlon. I mean, those are any public service events that would want some communication or benefit from communication. You know, we can help. And then they would establish training standards for Elkhart County radio EComm. And again, this is assuming that we may not be able to get an EC for some time, but we need to be able to respond to emergencies here in Elkhart County. And you know, what are going to be our standards? How are we going to operate? And when we need some help from outside, can we tell them what our standards are so that they can fit in and easily incorporate into what we're doing here in Elkhart County? A lot of those standards, you know, are kind of have been in place in some form. This is the Racy's manual, June of 2009.
Couple days.
A few things have happened between 2009 and now. So, you know, we need to keep things like that up to date and have standards for us. Planned exercises, we need to practice once in a while, more than just getting on a Monday night net and checking in. You know, we actually be able to do some exercises, and then interact with the agencies, emergency management. New group coming up is the COAD. Our involvement there won't be huge, but yeah, again, being able to interface with them, and then others, Elkhart City, emergency management.
What's co-ed?
It's an organization
Oh, that's
that-
nice.
I can never remember the title. It's basically, what has happened for every emergency that we've had in Elkhart County. You know, floods, things like that, is a group is created, and they then work with various organizations and provide various help, until basically they're done, and then they dissolve, and then we have another emergency, and gotta recreate it over here, and get all these companies and stuff and back in line, and who's gonna help this time? COAD is basically saying, we don't wanna redo the wheel every time we have one.
Right.
Let's get a list of all the agencies, companies, you know, resources in the county, get names, numbers, and whatever, and have a group that will coordinate
Sure.
emergency from time of the emergency till the time of, you know, that everybody's been helped and are back.
Sure.
Hopefully on their feet again. So that's basically what COAD is. It's trying to not have to reinvent the wheel each time.
Basically, a community organization
Yeah.
rather than the state or
Right.
national.
And for them, an emergency is anything. I mean, if there's an apartment fire and it involves 20 people, they get a group together to help those 20 people get back on their feet. You know, it may not be a national, you know, city disaster, county disaster, or whatever, you know, so they're more to work with that.
Like a resource clearinghouse.
I saw somebody. Oh, there he is. Oh, Myron. So, anyway, and then other organizations. So this group would be involved in keeping those interagency connections. So that's the general idea. Probably the biggest thing is this something we want to do? And I see heads shaking up and down around. Are we willing to commit to a regular scheduled time to do it? In addition to all the other things, and then obviously the next question is filling those 6 positions.
I'd be willing to do it.
Show of hands, how many?
Well, no, we're not doing a show of hands on how to do it. It's called, obviously, for the first position for the Aries, where that was. So basically, those are the 6 positions. I guess first question, do we want to have in the structure these particular positions as automatic members of the council leadership team?
Makes sense to have.
Yeah, and it can always change as more members come in.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It can change, it's just starting and it's gonna start follow up.
So obviously, the first position is an easy one to fill because that's me.
I don't see how we're gonna get an RUZC.
I don't even. I won't say we won't. I mean, if somebody really wants to do it and get that level of training, it'd be fun. It'd be interesting to get all that training.
We really need to get access to that database so that people can track their training.
Right.
I mean, we can do it ad hoc, and I think whatever training requirements we come up with are gonna parallel what the league is doing and what, the ICS stuff, but we have to have a way of tracking it other than your filing cabinet or my thumb drive or whatever.
So,
Some type of digital footprint.
position 4, net control manager, willing to.
Oh, I'm willing to give that up at the drop of a hat.
Well, I mean, to
I
be
think we
part
need some
to
new
be
blood.
part of
I could
the. Are
do
you
this for
willing to be
like,
part of
20,
this
30
team, this
years.
management team?
I don't know whether you really need net control manager to be part of that team.
Okay.
I mean, I won't.
I was just
I won't be
coming-
offended if you boot me off, but I mean, from the others are much more intensive. Net control manager is more.
Right now, I'm looking to
Pretty
fill
fast.
these positions. Are you willing to do that?
I'll continue.
Okay.
But if somebody else would like to do it and breathe some new life into it.
Yeah.
I hear some grumblings after the net.
So basically, what would happen with these 4 positions is when a new coordinator, EC, scout manager would come in, whoever was currently in that position would essentially go out and the new person would come in automatically into these positions. That person can come in as at-large position. So those 2 positions are relatively easy because we've assigned an actual location. Next 2 positions I want to fill are the last 2, the 2 at-large, because I see those as more long-term positions. Whoever gets the EC one's liable to be long-term also, but at any rate, who would be willing to be on this leadership team?
What are the requirements for a Skyward manager?
Last guy that asked that question became the Skyward manager.
Good answer. Since we have
I
the-
might be willing to volunteer, I guess.
Since we have the recent Skyward manager here, I will defer that one to.
That's the answer. That's the long answer, the short answer, and the only answer.
That's what I was looking at with all my training with emergency management, everything. I think I can do it. I just need to know what to do.
I was just wondering, you need to take any advanced training courses or?
Do the Skyward or?
Yeah,
Okay.
have one.
Yeah, as far as what's involved,
I don't
I don't know if
know
there's
if
any real or technical requirements. I mean, the races coordinator basically has to be somebody recommended from a group from Elkhart County to emergency management, and then emergency management appoints that position. So just because that's one you just can't go in and say, go into the general and say, hey, I want to be the races court.
I can see what Jennifer. Oh, really?
Oh, really? So that was kind of when, if I were to resign from it, then, as a Goshen Club, Elkhart Club, with this group, I could see this as being one of those key groups to make that decision and be the next one recommended to emergency management. But that's how that one gets appointed. The Aries EC is basically, you go through the district emergency coordinator, which is currently Lyle, still doing that for our district. And the first thing I will ask was, are you willing to get all this training and be able to do it? I think they're giving most people about 2 years to get all of it. Is their expectation, now whether they actually do that. So that's how you become an AC. The Skyward manager, from what I can tell, is kind of, anyone want to do it?
I might help it out, being consistent.
I don't know
Schedule, I
if
can't
you,
do it.
It's greatly changed from what it was.
yeah, I
early
mean,
days, so it's
because
a lot
obviously, IMO has changed,
different.
removed, whatever you want to call it. So I'm not sure who would appoint that one. And
Well, before the Goshen Club did, because they were the ones that pretty well got it started
Right.
and worked in with NWS, but with the change in priorities that NWS has, it's totally different, and it's up to whatever you want to do. I would see it as somebody that keeps track of the weather during severe weather occurrences and can alert the net to know, or the repeater to know what's happening.
so Dave, did you report to anybody especially after IMO dissolved?
I didn't even really know IMO dissolved until Andy did a financial report at the meeting, so I don't know how loose that organization was.
So,
And it's helpful to have that Zello app. To get in touch with, I can't think of his name, up and down there in Fort Wayne, it's been the go-to guy.
so that, actually appointing somebody to that position, I have no idea what current procedure would be for that. I guess since I have two people here that say they're interested, you guys decide.
I've got a lot of training.
And then-
A lot of training, it's all basic, but I don't.
Yeah, as far as training, there's really no specific training that I know of, other than, you know, you gotta be interested in weather, and I assume go to the training,
Better go to the basic training.
at least the basic
Yeah.
training, and basically get interaction with Michael down there at Michael Lewis down at the North Webster site. And then I basically, I think you can make it whatever you want it to be. I guess I would encourage, you know, I mean, this is the Racy side of me saying, I would encourage you to become a Racy's member and therefore get the training for 100, 200, and 700. To be, obviously, I'm asking all of you to get it, actually. I need members.
What would be involved, time commitment and so on with the at-large?
It'd be at least, I would assume, a meeting a month, with that group. And however long that would take. I'd say at least a meeting every other month, if not every month.
My problem is I don't do a lot of driving after dark. And
But that group would determine when and where and how they want to do their group.
I'm really interested in this because I live 3 minutes walk from the club station, which has emergency power and everything. And I'm living in the midst of a vulnerable population, you might say. And so, I think I'm in a position physically, and I have my extra, and I've got And I'm right now taking the FEMA courses, which I hope to finish by the end of March. And so, my goal is to have the qualifications for races. So I would be interested in the
So-
large.
So, yeah, we're talking about the leadership group and here, so.
Yeah, I would be willing to make a commitment to being involved.
Anybody else wanna make I assume whoever's gonna decide to do the Skyward. I'll let, so,
Gentlemen's agreement.
do you wanna be on this, do both of you wanna be on this, okay.
Yeah.
So one of you I will put in the Skywarn position, whatever, so,
Flip a coin.
Billy, and
Rick.
I'm gonna give you guys both.
and I need one more at large.
Roger, are there any plans in any level to include or try to get a youth amateur radio group going in the county? A youth ham group.
That's a hard one to get. Right now, let me.
I'm thinking that might also need to be on that,
And we
in
can,
that structure.
and I'm more than happy to, I mean, we can make changes. This is just to get things started. I'm
Sure.
really looking